culture, and the future of India before you. I have given the title of Jai. Was name of Mahabharata. When the initial text was around 8,000 shlokas, the name was Jayam. Later it got expanded to over 1 lakh shlokas, and the name also got transformed to Mahabharata. Essentially here, we are dealing with a nation that is as old as history. As it is said in Vishnu Purana, Uttaram yat samudrasya himadrishchaiva dakshinam varsham tad bharatam nama bharati yatra sandati. This text is as old as 2,500 years. This text says that there is land called Bharata above ocean in the south of mighty Himalayas, and people who live in Bharata are called Bharatiyas. Indus Valley Civilization, as it is called, was enormously huge. There were mighty cities, they were having all the modern facilities, and later, as our classification goes on, it goes to the Vedic period, roughly around 4,000 years ago. A period high on philosophical values, and a lot of philosophies came out from India during that time. Along with Vedas, there were Upanishads and other magnificent texts. Then comes the ancient philosophies of Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka, Sankhya, and others. As you can see, as many of the speakers have pointed out, Buddhism originated in India. That was the period of a cultural movement. They were like, as Paul Brunton says in his book, A Search in Sacred India, India is a land of yogis, ascetics, and a vibrant cultural and philosophical, a place where all these things originated. So there are the epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which originated in India, and it's transcended all the national borders, and it is very much popular in Asean nations also. And also there comes the Sangham period in southern part of the nation, where literature also flourished in the areas ruled by Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. Along with this, India contributed a lot to the world. One is Ayurveda, a traditional Indian medical system. Then Shushruta, by the 6th century BCE, surgeries were performed by Shushruta. As you all know, Arthashastra, that's a treatise on the statecraft. Then along with that, we can also mention about Nitisara, Panchatantra, the stories of Panchatantra, and Jataka tales, which essentially dealt with statecraft, even though it was like characters were like speaking birds and animals, but Panchatantra essentially deals with the thoughts regarding statecraft. Then we had many empires being like, they were created, and the two most magnificent empires were the Mauryan Empire under the Ashokan period, and of course, when it comes to ASEAN, we have to mention the Chola Empire. Chola, their influence rather went down to Srivijaya, which is the present-day Indonesia. There were many other greater empires like Palas, Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, and from Kashmir to the present-day South, multiple empires flourished in the region. So, but even we had the Vijayanagara Empire at one period during the 15th and 16th century. Vijayanagara Empire of the present-day Karnataka. It was called the richest empire in the entire world. But 1,000 years of invasion, of cultural invasion, and later by colonial powers, India was broken. When Britishers left India, India was a broken economy. We had a crunching infrastructure, poverty was very common here. And the Britishers left with conflicts on the Indian border. things like a term came called the Hindu rate of growth to ridicule this sluggish growth of Indian economy. But things changed. We were blessed with a galaxy of leaders who guided us to the future. So now let me talk to you about Vikasit Bharat. This is an ambitious era, as our Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi points out. India is all set to become a developed nation by 2047. This nation will become a $30 trillion economy with all the benefits reaching the lower sections of the society. So actually there is a happy news. Just an hour ago, India's latest GDP figures came out, and it is 7.8% in the last quarter. So, as you know, India is the fastest growing major economy now. Yesterday, another report by EY came out, and by 2038, India is all set to overtake the United States in terms of purchasing power parity. So, this nation is growing. So I have some figures of Indian economy, the way India is growing. So a lot of sectors have seen massive transformation. India was an importer of electronics earlier, but now the things have changed. India is a net exporter of electronics. And many more things, highways, metros, bullet trains under construction. So each one of us are experiencing the massive transformation in India. And also massive infrastructural development that India is seeing, then exports. An important thing, India is now exporting its military products. As you can see the data, it's last in financial year, India exported 23,000 crore worth of defense, exported defense materials, and you can see BrahMos. BrahMos, made in India, tested in Pakistan, and now open for the world. And you see a lot of Asean nations queuing up because they have shown their interest in procuring BrahMos. So, as our Prime Minister says, 21st century belongs to Asia, especially to India and ASEAN nations. India is open to trade, to fostering relationship with the ASEAN nation. No debt traps, no questions on your territorial integrity, friendship and mutual respect plus growth. Thank you. So now my colleague Monica ji will be speaking about India's foreign policy. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good evening, everyone. I'm aware that there is some paucity of time, so I will be a little quick and will skip some of the slides that have already made part of the discussion in the last 2 days. So, Namaskar, I'm Dr. Monica Gupta, Assistant Professor, Delhi University. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss about 3 important aspects. First is India's foreign policy doctrine. Second, India-ASEAN relations. And in sync with that, the prospects, challenges, and opportunities that form an integral part of the India-ASEAN relations and how youth can be involved into these prospects for strengthening the relations between India and ASEAN. To begin with, if you have to understand India's foreign policy, there are 3 ways of understanding it. The first is the guiding principles, which have the backing of our Indian Constitution under Article 51, which forms the directive principles of state policy, and these are instructions to the government to promote international peace and security, to maintain just and honorable relations between nations, and to foster respect for international law and treaty obligations. Second are the foundational principles, which found its place in the Panchsheel Agreement, and you can see on the screen, it talks about mutual respect, for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. The third aspect is contemporary and fundamental principles that not only have current relevance, but is largely derived from the existing global world order. And amongst that, the first is multipolarity, where India strives for a just, equal, inclusive, and rules-based world order. Second, strategic autonomy, where India believes in issue-based partnerships, prioritizing its national interest and takes an independent stand on international issues according to the merits of each case. Third, perhaps extremely important, strategic autonomy, where India believes in issue-based partnerships, prioritizing its national interest and takes stand on international issues. Multilateralism, where India strongly believes that current architecture of the developing countries and something that represents the voice of the global south. Talking about multi-alignment, in sync with believing in a multipolar world order, India believes in the strategy of multi-alignment to engage with the world without siding or being dependent on any one of them. Last but not the least, Vasudev Kutumbakam, which implies the world is one family. India recognizes the highly interconnected world we live in, and hence peace, stability, and prosperity becomes must for growth and development. The next slide highlights the objectives that the Indian foreign policy are trying to achieve. I'll just skip this slide due to the paucity of time and come back. All right. So I'll just present this slide in another 1 minute and sum it up. Well, this was something that I wanted to talk about, and it deals with India-ASEAN relations. So I would just say that, as you can see on this slide, from Look East to Act East policy, India has navigated a long, dynamic, and action-oriented journey in strengthening its ties with its ASEAN partners. A seemingly greater convergence is seen when our former foreign minister, late Srimati Sushma Swaraj, highlighted 3 C's: culture, commerce, and connectivity as integral to India-ASEAN relations, and I'm proud to say that over the years, we have intensified our efforts in this direction through a combination of 3 more C's, which is collaboration, cooperation, and coexistence. With that, there are plenty of opportunities and prospects that lie for the region, which you can see, and a lot have already been discussed in the last 2 days. I'll just move on to the last slide, which talks about challenges and how we can convert them into strengths and rebuild our relations on some of these fronts. So the first would be revisiting and renegotiating the free trade agreement that already exists, overcoming red tapeism in developmental and connectivity projects, adoption of mutual consent, and overcoming differences in Indo-Pacific strategy where we prioritize ASEAN centrality, co-develop critical and emerging technologies in areas of green hydrogen, in AI, quantum computing, and semiconductor fabrication, and lastly, expanding renewable and climate cooperation. With that, I would end the presentation in the words of our current Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is very optimistic about strengthening India-ASEAN relations as it underlines the need for greater cooperation and coordination between India and ASEAN. On that note, Dhanyavad, Jai Hind, thank you.
Thank you, Team India. Sorry to rush you through that. I'll make sure that we'll give you enough time for the next presentation. May I request everyone to kindly remain seated. The Honorable Governor will be arriving shortly. If anyone from your delegation is missing, please tell them at the earliest to report to the main hall, because there won't be entry allowed once the Governor arrives in the hall. So may I request everyone to please be seated.